how easy and important it is to flight check or pre-flight with Markzware's flight check. Just drop a file on the flight check icon and you'll get a full report on what potentially is wrong in the file. Flight check will pre-flight native Quark, InDesign, Word freehand type files, as well as the resulting PDF files or image files as well. As you see here, you get a full report. The first screen is an overview of potential problems and why that's a problem, quite obvious in many cases. And on the other main window, you get full details on the file. And what we're going to do now is call in a flight check user, Terri Wright, and talk to her about how she uses flight check. Hi everybody, David Dilling from Markzware, and today we have on the Skype Terri Wright from Santa Barbara, California. I would say sunny California, but she just told me it's been raining and windy over there, so but most of the time sunny California. And Terri is a production designer and graphic designer and many other things, and she's also a flight check user. So let's throw it right over to Terri and get a little bit of background on who Terri is and what she does. Terri, hi, how are you?
Hi, David. I'm Terri Wright, and I'm a freelance book designer and production designer for many clients, but one of my largest clients is Serbin Creative, where I'm working today. And my specialty is books, and here we produce several different advertising directories, which are large publications. And I have one to show you here. This one
wow.
is the directory of illustration, and it's on the average about 600 pages of advertising from different artists. Wow. And then we have the medical illustration source book, which is a slightly smaller publication, about 175 pages, featuring different animators and illustrators and in the medical sciences and natural science. And then we also have some photography books, which I don't have a copy of here, but those are ad-edge photography. And I do all the pre-flight work for the books. I check every page of every file, and so as you can see, we have hundreds of them, and we get files from all different kinds of artists and all different formats. So it keeps me busy.
Yeah, we'll jump into that in a second. And you also have your own freelance company as well?
Yes, I do. Terri Wright Design, and I work for major textbook publishers and private individuals who want to produce books and other publishing companies.
Awesome. Okay. Great, Terri. Maybe you could tell us a bit more about, like, before we jump into flight check specifically, about the daily workflow, the software you use, and that type of stuff.
Well, I use the Adobe Creative Suite, and for design work, I use mostly InDesign, and then Photoshop and Illustrator. I also do dabble a tiny bit in Premiere Pro and some other things, but by no means proficient at those. Mostly my workhorse is InDesign. And when I'm designing, of course, that's a different function than prepress work. But here at Serbin Creative, my workflow is mostly in the area of prepress. So I'm taking files from various artists, and on a daily basis, I receive the file, I download it from our server, and the first thing I do is I run it through Flightcheck.
Awesome.
I mean, the very first thing, I want to find out what kind of file it is, what software they're using, what version of software, whether or not it meets all of our standards. And of course, I set up my ground controls so that I know, what our printer wants. And so, we don't, for instance, take any images that are below 270 DPI. We ask for 350. So I try to make sure everything is at least 350 if possible. Otherwise, I'll fudge a little bit, but without Flightcheck, I wouldn't be able to tell if there is a low-res image, very easily without opening everything and looking at all the links.
Right.
And so, so when I run it through Flightcheck, I make a Flightcheck report, and I make a laser printout of each ad, and I attach it to the Flightcheck report. And then I have, I don't know if you can see, I have bins of dockets over here. For every ad, they
Wow.
have their own file folder.
Yeah, or
and
job folder, yeah.
And all their own laser reports that include Flightcheck. And the other printer where I send it, they love me because they say, wow, not everybody does Flightcheck, and we know your files are going to be in good condition when we receive them.
Awesome. That is really incredible. So for every ad that comes in, you run a pre-flight and a soft proof?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
And yeah, so then I send the laser copy and the Flightcheck report to the printer along with my pagination and sequence, so that they can put everything together.
Right.
And usually, I mean, I might get one or two things that go by. Hardly anything really. Most everything is in good condition because I pre-flighted it and solved all the problems.
Yeah. You did the legwork. Yeah. Well, you're saving potential huge problems down the line, as you probably know. I mean, if something goes to print and a book like you just showed us has major problems, well, that's a costly issue, So.
Well, one of the biggest issues too when you're doing books is that you have to reserve the press time, and you buy all your paper and everything ahead of time, and in order to get it out on time, you can't afford to lose time by sending files that are incorrect.
Right.
So I make sure everything's fine, and hopefully when they get it, they have very little issues, and then I don't have to a problem in my schedule.
Right. Yeah. And what are you sending to? Are you sending the printer a PDF file, or are you sending the source InDesign file?
All right. When I send my files off to the printer, it includes various versions of different kinds of file formats, and PDFs, InDesign native files, Photoshop files. Those are primarily the ones. Illustrator, a lot of Illustrator files, right, with links and fonts and everything.
Yeah, that's where Flightcheck really excels. Is it goes deep also into those files, so you can catch issues deep within embedded Illustrator files and stuff like that.
Right. I just got a email from a client yesterday that I wrote to and said, thanks for submitting your ad, but we had 5 images on your page that were low res. And I was able to use Flightcheck to actually open up that image and make a little screen capture and show them which one it was. And I include a little screen capture of the Flightcheck report to show which font is missing or whatever, and send it to them, and then they can exactly know what to replace.
Awesome, very good use of Flightcheck. Very, very cool. Okay, so you're sending the printer a InDesign file with everything packaged. You're not sending a PDF file. They make the PDF.
I don't make a PDF file of a person who sends me an InDesign file.
Right.
But people send me PDFs or Photoshop files or InDesign, yes. So I send the native InDesign file and all the fonts and links.
Right. Okay.
And then I get a proof. Pardon me?
Oh, sorry. Then you get a proof back.
Then I get a proof, and I have to send all the proofs off to each client. And each client then, approves or disapproves, or they want a color adjustment or whatever. And I have to handle all of that and send it back. Wow, and I do Flightcheck on second proofs and third proofs, and all the way through.
Goodness gracious, yeah, that's a whole work. Is that book like once a year, once every 2 years, or?
Once a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Both of these directories are done once a year, and this particular production takes me from May through August to finish, and from start to finish. And this one here takes from February to May.
So, yeah, you're keeping busy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that was one of the other questions. You're answering a lot of the questions I had. This is great. The file formats you get in, like you said, you're getting in from A to Z, PDFs, InDesign files, even maybe Word files, I guess.
Yeah, occasionally, but not too often. Only
Okay.
time I'll get a Word file or loose images is if I'm actually designing the ad, and
Right.
in which case I request things from the artist, and then I have to then find out whether those meet the requirements that I need in order to design the page. And in those cases, I will do a PDF, when I'm finished,
Right.
because that's the preferred format, and more I am getting PDFs. This is one thing I do like about Flightcheck, is that I'm able to have a ground control for PDFs and for native files, so it switches back and forth. In
Right.
which case, I don't have to preset it every single time.
No, exactly. It does it automatically. And you can even go into the advanced preferences and set up specific ground controls for every single file type. So for Illustrator, you can have a different set of ground controls. And for those listening, ground controls are like the Preflight profiles or things you want to check for. And it comes with a standard set. So in the beginning, it's easy to get started and all that. But then so that if you drop a Photoshop file, it can open up a specific ground controls just for Photoshop files. And
That's
really
very
neat.
interesting, because I haven't used that,
Yeah.
and I'd like to try that.
Well, I'll show the people right now, and you'll see this. Terry can't see my screen, but in Flightcheck, and here's the ground controls Terry's talking about. These like you check on or off what you want to check for. Maybe Terry hears the eagle screeching.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
you know that.
familiar sound.
Yeah. What did I want to show again? Oh yeah, under Flightcheck preferences, and then under preferences you'll see advanced. And under advanced, you can see auto pre-flight detection is on. And if I hit customize, we get this, which is where you can add in specific object classes, which are file types, as you can see here. And I can say choose for, let's say, for a freehand file. You probably don't get any more freehand, so that's maybe a bad example. Let's say FrameMaker, which who knows you might get, and you can choose and set up a specific set of ground controls for that type of file format, so that whenever you drop a FrameMaker file on Flightcheck, it would automatically switch to ground controls to the specific set of ground controls you want to check for. Anyway, okay, back to Terry. Sorry, Terry. Fantastic. Let me just see.
I said I'm going to start using that right away, because one of the things that I have in Illustrator that is always something I have to check is whether the overprint fill is unchecked. And I need to make sure that that isn't unchecked, because otherwise things disappear when I send it to the printer and they send me a proof back. Things disappear. And
Awesome.
So in Illustrator, I get a lot of Illustrator files. So that's one thing I do check all the time. And of course, spot colors and other things.
Yeah.
I have to check for.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, good. I'm glad we could help a little bit. How did you learn about Markzware? I don't know if you're obviously an experienced user, but
I probably it's been about 10 years, so I'm thinking I probably found out about it working with a pre-prep house that was using Flightcheck, probably for a local client here. I'm thinking might have been like Islands Magazine or something many years ago. Yeah. And I'd like to pick up on the newest technology, so.
Yeah,
that is one thing I love about Flightcheck is that it has so far been keeping up with all of the versions of Adobe Creative Suite. Yeah. And when we had Quark files, I was doing Quark, but we don't do too many Quark files anymore.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks to the Markzware engineers, they work tirelessly to get all these formats and interesting new features that InDesign might bring out and make sure people can pre-flight and check them. Well, you already kind of covered this, but what are the 4 or 5 most common pre-flight problems you're coming across? Or
well, I would say RGB files versus CMYK. That's a large one. Low resolution.
Yeah.
Those things I absolutely have to be fixed.
Yep.
The spot colors. I can't have spot colors because everything is CMYK.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have their files skewed, where that's out of skew, where it's not 100% by 100%, and we don't prefer that. you know. So I asked for that to be fixed because sometimes, you know, it looks distorted.
Sure.
I think, you know, those are probably on the top of the list.
And like you're getting a lot of Illustrator files, and like are fonts a big issue or?
Oh yeah, fonts. I should have mentioned fonts right up front.
Yeah,
Fonts is one of the biggest issues.
Try to block that out, right?
Right. No, fonts is a big problem because people, if they don't send me their fonts, I can't use their file at all. Because in my machine, when using Flightcheck, I don't have any fonts loaded. I use Suitcase, but I just put in the client files, fonts, and in Suitcase, activate it, and then check it. When that one's done, I delete it, and so I don't keep anything native on my machine so that I know exactly what's in the client's files. The one thing I do have on my machine, though, is different versions of Illustrator, InDesign, Photoshop, and all. So if somebody comes in with a really ancient legacy version and I'm not getting what I want off of their screen proof, you know, I compare a screen proof to the file. Then I go back and open the version, but I wouldn't know what version if I didn't see it in Flightcheck.
Right. Wow.
And Flightcheck will tell me the version of it, you know, and so that's an important factor.
Oh, it sure is. Awesome. Yeah, you're really going in deep into the files. That's excellent. Do you use any other pre-flight tools?
Not really. I mean, Flightcheck is really my primary one. I mean, really, it's so easy to use. If I set the ground controls properly, and I know, and I've tested them, then all I have to do is drop the file on there and wait for the eagle to screech. If he does, then I have to go back, you know.
Yeah, and InDesign
but I do love it.
Yeah. InDesign also has like a pre-flight built in. Do you ever use that at all, or?
Oh, sometimes I use, sometimes if I'm not getting what I want out of Flightcheck on very rare occasion, I will use like InDesign Preflight, or I use Acrobat Preflight. We require our clients to submit Acrobat files in FOGRA 39 profile. And if it isn't that profile, then when I open it in Acrobat, I can convert it to that profile, and I don't bother sending an Acrobat file back to the client. I just use that, but I will very often use Acrobat to see, you know, what's the matter with a PDF if it's not coming up properly off of Flightcheck. I always check it Flightcheck first.
Right. Yeah, that's what we recommend for people as well. That's the best. How do you call it? Best way to use Flightcheck is as soon as something comes in, drop it on Flightcheck and just, like you do, actually perfectly print a report or save a report, and then you have like a legal document of what came in. You haven't opened it in Illustrator or Acrobat. You just checked it and got a report, and that's what you have, and then you can go further with it, you know. So
I never copy over or save over the client's original file, and I do exactly that. First thing I do is drop it on Flightcheck. Yeah, and I can just get a picture window immediately, whether the file is going to pass or not, and then I start problem solving.
Yeah, I can imagine your days are probably one day is never the same, I guess, for you.
No.
Let's see. Yeah, I think you've probably already answered that. But do you have any particular Flightcheck stories where Flightcheck really, you know, stood out for you and really saved the day? I guess it's saving the day like quite a bit for you because of, you know, how you're using it properly. But anything particular that sticks out?
Well, in the book world, you make reservations with the printer, and in their large projects, you can't be late. Yeah. So I guess you could say every day is saved by Flightcheck because I, in the end, save time. I can right away write a letter back to the client and say that such and such is missing or wrong. But in a few cases where I haven't had time to really do the problem solving, and especially since we have some clients who will send in 50 pages or more from one place, I've been able to run it through Flightcheck and just send the report to the printer and just say, here, you know, you take it from here. Here. So that has saved me time.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. And Terri, would you recommend Flightcheck for other people out there potentially thinking about, pre-flighting with Flightcheck?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's the number one software to use. It's
Awesome.
very easy, and it might take a little bit to set up, but once you have it set up and you know your parameters, it can be your best friend.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
rely on it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it really can be. Fantastic. Do you have anything like you'd like to see in Flightcheck in the future? Any, particular new features or functions or.
Well, I would really like to see Flightcheck continue to keep up with the standards of Adobe Creative Suite, because everything's going that direction, and also with Apple changing, things on their machines. I use a Mac, just to continue to be compatible.
Right. Yeah, that's a good tip. Excellent. Well, Terri, I really appreciate it. It was really fun interviewing you and seeing the job folders and the actual way you're using Flightcheck and the books you're actually producing. It's really neat. What I'm going to do now is show people here that your web pages and your contact information. Let me see where that is. So this is serbincreative.com, and here you can see the directory of illustration. That's one of the titles you were working on, correct, Terri?
Yes, that's the biggest one I work on.
Yeah,
it comes out once a year. It's about a 600-page publication.
Wow.
And in that we maybe have 700 artists. Well, more than that, but files I'm receiving from probably 700 people, because some of them are half-page ads. But it's quite a bit of work.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, it's a very nice web page as well. We just had a peek at that, and then down here is the medical illustration source book, which you're also working on, and these are some amazing graphics. It's illustrations. All these microorganisms and blood vessels and all kind of stuff. The brain. So this must be really interesting to work with, and you're pre-flighting all this imagery, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. Amazing. And okay, so that's more information on Serbin Creative. You can click there, and I'll put the links in the description down below. Yeah, sorry, did you want to say something, Terri? Terri, are you there? Oh, there you are.
And so, what I was saying is a lot of animators only send RGB files. And so I have to either convert it to CMYK or send it back, and thank goodness for Flightcheck with that.
You can quickly see it and just, right away. Probably have like a copy and paste text you send to these people,
I do.
Yeah, I would too. Unbelievable. Okay, so that's serbincreative.com. Terri also has her own, like she mentioned, freelance business, terriwright.com. Terri Wright Design is the name of the company. And there she also has some very interesting books she works with, all kind of mathematics and psychology books. And what do you do there again? You're basically laying out the books?
I'm doing the actual design work for covers and interior layouts, and I do some production work, but mostly it's design and concept design and for layout for covers and interiors, and that's for college textbooks. And then I also do ebooks and animation for ebooks and other kinds of collateral material for publications, which is like brochures and pamphlets and that kind of thing.
Right. Awesome. Also a nice webpage. And just for folks that are interested, I've got a bunch of messages open here. Whoops, what's going on here? This is Terri over on LinkedIn, and I will try to connect with her now. See if Terri accepts, and there
Sure
you can just, there you can just see all about what she's done and what she's doing now, and in any event, Terri, I'll switch back to Skype here. Anything else you want to say before we sign off here, or add in, or?
No, I just want to actually thank you for all your tech support, because in addition to having a great product, you have managed to get back to us to me when I needed it, and it's usually on a tight schedule. So I submit through the website, the
Yeah.
support ticket, and I get response quickly, and it's been very helpful.
Well, that's good to hear. That's one of the things that Markzware actually, prides itself on or happy with. That the support is really important with pre-flighting and Flightcheck, and even our other tools like PDF to InDesign or Quark to InDesign. People need fast answers nowadays because the customers are demanding fast answers. So, your
Right,
customers.
actually, I have used the Q2 ID
Sure.
one, that one, because we had a whole magazine that needed to be converted from Quark to InDesign, and so that came in wonderfully handy.
Yeah, and click and get a coffee and it's done. And
Yeah.
have you ever heard of our PDF to InDesign Converter? Have you seen that one?
No, I have not. I
Because
haven't looked into it.
that might be very interesting for you for those
Hmm.
complicated multi-page PDFs that you want to or need to recreate in InDesign. You can
Hmm.
now convert it from PDF right into InDesign.
Oh, that
Um,
sounds fantastic. I actually might use that.
yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Okay, well, that's good to know that Markzware has new products coming out all the time.
Yeah, we sure do. Thanks. And it looks like it's getting sunny back there. I can see out the window in Santa Barbara. Is it still raining?
No, it's no more rain. We're still having a little wind, but I think that's due to subside by tomorrow. So looking forward to getting back out on the ocean real quick.
Yeah, you like to sail, I heard. I could imagine. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
awesome.
So
Well,
that's what I do in my spare time to get my head free of all of these technical details.
that's right. Well, without Flightcheck, you'd have a lot less sailing time, right? So,
Right.
so use Flightcheck, you can sail more. Terri,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, David.
And, yeah, take care.
All right. Bye.